Born without a shadow. On your 30th birthday, someone else has showed up. I've lived 30 years without a shadow. Doctors called it a rare dermatological anomaly. Teachers used terms like light refraction disorder. Kids just called me freak. My parents tried everything, special lamps, experimental treatments, even a faith healer from Tennessee who claimed my shadow had been stolen by demons. Nothing worked. Light simply passed through me differently, refusing to create the dark outline that everyone else cast. You adapt. I learned to stand where no one would notice the missing silhouette. I avoided sunny days and spotlights. I became an expert at deflection when someone new pointed at the ground beneath me with that familiar look of confusion. By adulthood, it was just another quirk, like my double-jointed thumbs or inability to roll my tongue. My medical oddity even helped my career. As a forensic accountant, people remembered me. Send the paperwork to that shadowless woman in auditing, they'd say. Not the most flattering identifier, but effective. I'd made peace with my condition. Until my 30th birthday. I woke that morning to my alarm, stretched, and stumbled to the bathroom. The light flicked on automatically, smart home upgrades, my gift to myself. I was brushing my teeth when I noticed something odd in my peripheral vision. A darkness on the tile floor. I spat, turned, and froze. There, stretching from my feet across the white bathroom tile, was a shadow. But not my shadow. This silhouette was wrong, taller, broader in the shoulders, with a distinctly masculine profile. I raised my hand. The shadow didn't. I stepped sideways. It followed, but with movements that seemed slightly delayed, like a poor dubbing job. I screamed. The shadow jerked in surprise, a motion completely independent of my body. I ran from the bathroom, heart hammering. In my living room, morning sunlight cast the foreign shadow sharply against my wall. It looked around, disoriented, as if seeing my apartment for the first time. "What are you?" I whispered. The shadow tilted its head, considering me. Then it raised one hand in a cautious greeting. I mirrored the gesture, though it wasn't necessary. The shadow wasn't mimicking me, it was responding to me. Over the next hours, I learned to communicate with it through gestures and simple drawings. I called in sick to work, stomach bug, very contagious, and pulled my blinds closed to give us privacy from curious neighbors. Through crude pictures drawn on paper, I gathered that my shadow companion was named Thomas. He was 30 years old, exactly my age. He worked as an architect. And like me, he'd been born with a strange condition. He had always cast two shadows. Until today. I showed him my driver's license to confirm my birthdate. He nodded vigorously, pointing at the date, then at himself. Same birthday. Same year. But why now? Why us? As evening approached, the shadow began to fade slightly. It made frantic gestures, pointing to the window, then drawing a quick sketch of a skyline I didn't recognize. "You need to go home?" I guessed. The shadow nodded, then drew a crude map with a star marking a location. It was 3 hours away by car, a city I'd never visited. I hesitated only briefly before grabbing my keys. This mystery had consumed 30 years of my life. I needed answers. I drove through the night, following highway signs toward the city from the map. The shadow grew more agitated as we approached, gesturing with increasing urgency towards specific exits and turns. It was like having the world's oddest GPS. Finally, we arrived at an apartment building downtown. The shadow directed me to the 8th floor, apartment 8C. I stood at the door, heart pounding, wondering if I'd lost my mind somewhere between my bathroom floor and this stranger's doorstep. I knocked. The door opened to reveal a tall man with tired eyes and rumpled dark hair. He wore sweatpants and a faded t-shirt, looking like he hadn't slept in days. When he saw me, his exhaustion vanished, replaced by shock. "It's you," he whispered. I glanced down. Between us on the hallway carpet, our shadows had merged, mine, his, and his, mine, overlapping in perfect symmetry for the first time. "Thomas?" I asked. He nodded slowly. "And you're Eliza. Somehow I knew your name, but not how to find you." "Your shadow found me," I said, the absurdity of the statement hitting me as the words left my mouth. He invited me in. His apartment was filled with drawings, hundreds of sketches of a woman who looked remarkably like me, standing in places I recognized from my life. My office building. My favorite coffee shop. My parents' home. "I've been drawing you since I was a child," he explained. "I always thought you were just my imagination. Then 3 days ago, one of my shadows disappeared." "On your birthday," I said. "Our birthday?" "Yes." We talked until sunrise, piecing together our parallel lives. Both only children. Both born during a rare solar eclipse. Both drawn to careers involving patterns in space. Living just hours apart for 3 decades without knowing. As morning light streamed through his windows, our shadows shifted and changed. Slowly, impossibly, they began to reshape, his becoming more feminine, mine more masculine, until each of us was finally casting our own true shadow. Quantum entanglement, Thomas suggested with a scientist's curiosity. Or maybe just magic. I didn't have a better explanation. But standing there, finally complete at 30 years old, with a shadow that moved when I moved and a connection I couldn't explain, I realized some mysteries don't need solving. Sometimes they just need acknowledging. We celebrated our belated birthday with coffee and bagels, watching our newly correct shadows dance across his kitchen floor, no longer missing, no longer extra, but exactly as they should be.